So, hi everyone, welcome to the very last lesson of this year. First of all, I would like to thank all of you for being here from the very beginning of the year until the last meeting like this. And I would like to thank for everything that we have done together and so on. And since this is the last lesson of the year, I would like to review everything that we have learned together from the very beginning of the semester until now. So, without further ado, let's begin.
Right, so as what I've just said earlier, that this is the very last material that I'm going to give you. So first, let's have a look at the things that we have discussed this whole semester. Okay, so our journey so far is that we have discussed recount text, including the tenses, which is present perfect. We also discussed narrative tenses, which is simple past and past progressive as well. And then we also talked about narrative texts, for example, like folktale, legend, and myths. And then the last one, we also talk about models. For this video, I'm just going to talk about the first three, the recount, narrative tenses, and narrative texts, because models is just something that we have discussed earlier, and you can just simply look at the previous materials that I've given out. So let's begin with the first one, recount texts. So, recount texts, they are basically texts that retells past events. Please note this one because sometimes in a test, I'm going to ask about what's the purpose of the text, and the answer is always retell something. It starts with retelling something. Okay, and also it's in order what that happened, and it tells the readers what happened in the past. Usually begins by telling who was involved, what happened, where did it took place, and then when it happened. Okay, and then the most common recount text is about personal experience, but that's not only it. Okay, the purpose of recount text is to inform by retelling past events. Again, retell. Okay, that's the main purpose of recount text. Okay, generally there are four types of recount text. The first one is personal recount, so it's your own story. Historical recounts, so for example, big events like maybe the sinking of Titanic or some big conference that the person involved is not really necessary. The main is the big events. Okay, biographical recount, as the name suggests, is biography, is a story about someone. And the last one is fictional recount. So yeah, it's just a story. This is quite overlapping with narrative that we're going to discuss later, but you get the idea. Okay, and in general, recount text has some elements to it, okay, some structure. So it always starts with orientation. So basically it gives you general information about who, what, where, and when something happened. And then there are a series of events, okay, what happened in order usually. And then lastly is reorientation. It's the closing statements to end a story. It's either what happened at the end, and then maybe there's a summary of it, or even if it's possible there is a comment, okay, a comment of what the writer feels or think about the particular event. And then the language features, okay, so recount text, they have specific structure features, we can say language features. Okay, so yeah, they use proper nouns to identify those involved. So proper nouns are most of the time names, okay, or even if there's no names, we just tell who is it, like my parents or my friends or my schoolmates and so on. Okay, and then descriptive words to give details about the story, and then the use of simple past tense and basically any past tenses because we are retelling past events, and the use of transitional expressions to show the sequence of events, for example like first, next, and then, and so on and so forth. Okay, and then let's talk about the present perfect tense. So we use present perfect tense to talk about an action or state that either occurred at an indefinite time, so the time is not clear, in the past. Okay, for example, we have talked before, or began in the past and continued to the present. For example, he has grown impatient over the last hour. Okay, and usually it is formed by have has with past participle, also known as the verb 3. So yeah, we can see the example here. Okay, so if you want to make a statement sentence, positive sentence, we use have has with past participle. For negative sentence, we use have has not with past participle, and in that with interrogative sentence, we put the has or have in front of the sentence. And I'm sure you can see the examples yourselves. And then, yeah, we use present perfect to talk about unspecified time before now, to say that an action happened at an unspecified time before now, and the exact time is not important. And yeah, we'll talk about those experience change later. And then also we can use them to talk about duration from the past until now. So especially with non-continuous verbs. Okay, we use the present perfect to show that something started in the past and has continued up until now. For example, I have had a cold for 2 weeks, or Mary has loved chocolate since she was a little girl. Okay, and then yeah, we talk about an unfinished period, like unfinished past. For example, have you seen Joe this morning? So basically it talks about the things that have happened in an unfinished period of time that includes the present. So as you can see from the diagram, okay, it still continues possibly until 12 midday, because yeah, it's not finished even though it started in the past. It still continues until now. And then we can also talk about the duration. She has worked here for 3 years. Okay, so it started in the past and still continues up to now. And then indefinite past, okay, for the result. So you see the result, you see the evidence now. For example, oh, you have cut your hair. Okay, so you used to talk about present result of an action completed at a specified time in the past. And the last one is when we talk about experience. Okay, for example, like he has traveled all around the world. Okay, so we used to talk about experiences people have had at some time in the past. Okay, when it happened is not important. Okay, as long as you mention that it ever or never happened, or maybe you can also add like how many times they did it, like that. Okay, and then that's about the first chapter. Okay, now we move on to the second one. It's about out of tenses. Okay, so we got two here. So first one is past simple and the second one is past progressive. Okay, so past simple we used to talk about things in the past that happened or existed before now. We use them to show that you are talking about something that has happened. Okay, unlike the past continuous, which is about past events that happen over a period of time, past simple emphasize that the action is finished, is completed. Okay, and yeah, we can talk about past state of being, such as the way someone felt about something. Okay, and yeah, usually with the simple past of the verb and an adjective, noun, or something else. Okay, so yeah, a finished action in the past. For example, I saw a good film last night. Okay, so the past simple used to talk about things that happened in the past, are finished, and have no connection with the present. So that's the main difference between the past simple and present perfect. Okay, and we usually know when the action happened, or it's clear from context. And then past continuous, also known as past progressive, they refer to a continuing action or state that was happening at some point in the past. Okay, so we can use them to talk about conditions that existed in the past. For example, the sun was shining or the children were laughing. Okay, so conditions that existed in the past. You can also use it to talk about something that was happening continuously in the past. When another action interrupted, the audience was clapping until he fell off the stage, or I was making dinner when she arrived. Okay, there is a long action that was interrupted by a short action. And then we can use it to talk about what was happening at a precise time in the past. For example, at 6 o'clock I was eating dinner. And it can also talk about an annoying particular habit in the past. So for example, she was talking constantly in class in those days. Okay, so yeah, she was talking, it means that it is an annoying habit in the past. Okay, again, an action in progress at a past time. Okay, I was watching TV at 8. It means that at a particular time, which is 8 o'clock, the speaker, I, was in the middle of doing something. And then we can also use it to talk about interrupted past activity. So for example, I was watching TV when the phone rang, or the phone rang while I was watching TV. So we talk about an activity that was in progress and interrupted by a single complete action in the past. Okay, and then moving on, we talk about narrative text. Narrative text tells a story dealing with a problematic events that lead to a turning point of some kind. So there's a complication, which in turn finds a resolution. The social function of narrative text is to amuse or entertain the readers in different ways. Again, in the test, especially later semester test, there will be questions about what's the purpose of the text. Okay, and just as a general guideline, the answer always starts with amuse or entertain the readers. And then whatever follows is based on the story. Okay, and then depends on who you ask. There are several ways to define the structure of a story. In this one, I use 5-act structure, but you can, depend on who you ask, you can get 3, 4, 6 many ways. Okay, so first we start off by exposition. So we tell who the characters are, when, where it happens. Okay, and then the characters are the participants who are involved in the story. Okay, and then there's a rise of action. So basically that's where the problem started, and it gets worse until the climax, the turning point of the story. And after the climax, we got the falling action, so where the characters finally sort out the complication. And then at the end there is a denouement. This is a French word. Okay, basically it's where the conflicts are resolved, creating normality for the characters and a sense of catharsis. So it's a release of tension and anxiety to the reader. Okay, then the language features. Okay, so they use particular nouns to talk about particular people, animals. Okay, so maybe if we are talking about fables, so we talk about animals, or maybe in a myth we talk about gods and so on. Okay, and the use of the connectives to sequence events through time, so like first and then, after that, therefore, and so on and so forth. The use of past tenses to talk about the actions. We use say and thinking verbs. For example, he said, she said, he thought, this character believes, and so on. Okay, and then use descriptive words. Okay, it's quite unfortunate that I didn't make it to discuss about this one. And then the use of past tenses to show events or stories happened in the past. But it's not always in the past though. Sometimes some stories take place in the future. For example, like futuristic films like Star Trek and Star Wars, or maybe I don't know, some futuristic stories. Even though they set the place in the future, it is best to keep using past tenses, because we're talking not just distance in time, but also distance in reality. Okay, and yeah, models, I'm sure that you can just take a look at the previous materials that I've given out. Okay, I hope that's valuable enough to you. And yeah, basically that's it for this entire review session. I would like to thank you so much for everything that we've done this semester. I've put one last, yeah, that's the last, one last exercise for you to do, and I will consider it as an exercise as well. Okay, and I'll put it in your report card, so please try to do it well. I hope for the best of all of you, and yeah, good luck in everything you're doing. Thank you so much, and thank you.